This is Michael Popok, Legal AF, as we count down to the arrest, booking, processing, and then arraignment of Donald Trump today in Miami. As a Miami practicing attorney, let me talk about what's going to happen today. The lawyers that have already rejected Donald Trump to work with his team to defend him, and what happens next. Let's talk about the lawyers. The way federal court works is that you have to be admitted into the federal bar in which you are practicing. In other words, even if you're a member, for instance, of the Florida bar, like me, in order to practice before a federal judge, you have to be admitted into that particular federal court. If you're not admitted to that federal court, even if you're admitted to other federal courts, you're going to have a member of that court sponsor you for what's called special or limited admission, or sometimes referred to as pro hoc vice admission. Donald Trump has a lead trial lawyer, having fired earlier in the week Jim Trusty and John Rowley, and I guess Lindsay Halligan as well, even though she's a Florida lawyer and apparently is admitted to the Southern District of Florida bar. She's also attorney number 2 as listed in the indictment. So I don't think we're going to see, and I know we're not going to see Lindsay Halligan appearing in court for Donald Trump any longer now that she's a named witness in the indictment. So we have Todd Blanche, who was picked by Trump's inside lawyer, inside fixer Boris Epshteyn, to be his new lawyer in New York, facing the 34-count criminal indictment in New York. That Todd Blanche is coming all the way down to Florida to defend Donald Trump, apparently, as the lead trial lawyer. But he needs a Florida, Southern District of Florida bar member next to him as local counsel, or he can't appear. Even the clerk just issued a notice to Chris Kise, to Todd Blanche after he made his appearance, and reminded him, you got to be admitted into the Southern District of Florida or you're not going to be recognized as a advocate in the courtroom, and you got your arraignment coming up, you better do it quickly. That's why there was a mad scramble, as reported, for Donald Trump once he landed at Doral Country Club, his other golf course down near Miami, to start interviewing local counsel, anybody that had Southern District of Florida credentials, to stand next to and actually move to admit Todd Blanche as a member, at least for the limited purposes of this case. You needed that member. Not surprisingly, most of or all of the well-considered white-collar defense bar in Miami don't want to touch this case with a 10-foot pole. Probably has something to do with the fact that either every lawyer that's been involved in the case has either been fired by Donald Trump and or had to testify before the grand jury and or is a criminal target or witness themselves. Evan Corcoran, Christina Bobb, even Alina Habba, Tim Parlatore, Jim Trusty, Rowley, and the list goes on and on of recently and newly departed lawyers for Donald Trump, and then what happens to them and their bar license, setting aside all the other parade of horribles of lawyers who have lost their bar license for having worked for Donald Trump or have been sanctioned by their local bar: Jenna Ellis, Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Lynn Wood, and you can go on. So suffice it to say, it's not a great career move for you to actually take the job. It may be interesting publicity for you and your practice to let the public know you were interviewed for the job and rejected it. And I think that's what's gone on down in Miami. Having practiced there for 20 years, I know many of these lawyers. I know these law firms. I know the usual suspects of the white-collar defense lawyers that Trump spoke to. It's been reported he spoke to Ben Cuny, David Marcus, Howard Srebnick, Bill Barzy, and Bruce Emmett. I know all those lawyers, and they're all very fine lawyers. And of course, they wanted the world to know that they were interviewed, and they wanted the world to know that they rejected it, which was no great surprise. And I won't go over the reasons they rejected it. I think it's pretty obvious. I think Trump, there's another half dozen he could have spoken to. This was probably the best group right now in Miami, and they all let it be known they don't want to be involved with this case at all. Look, law firms generally don't want to represent Donald Trump, at least the elite firms. Even the new lawyer that's going to represent Donald Trump in the Southern District of Florida and moved for the admission of Donald Trump, Chris Kise. Chris Kise, you remember that name, I hope. He's currently one of the many lawyers representing Donald Trump up in New York. In the civil fraud case, he often stands next to or near Alina Habba when they're arguing about the $250 million civil fraud case. But Chris Kise is a Florida lawyer. He was the former Solicitor General under then Governor Charlie Crist. He's argued before the U.S. Supreme Court. He's a good lawyer. He's a well-known lawyer in Florida, mainly a lobbyist lawyer. He was based in Tallahassee for most of his career, and he worked for a law firm that actually I worked for as well, Foley and Lardner. As soon as he decided to represent Donald Trump, Foley and Lardner didn't really want to have anything to do with Chris Kise, or certainly with Donald Trump, and Chris Kise left his law firm, as Todd Blanche did, and moved to a new law firm that nobody's ever heard of, that's about an hour old, called Continental Law Group. And he took up to $5 million from the Save America PAC to pay the bills to represent Donald Trump, and opened up his new firm. That Chris Kise. Chris Kise is a member of the Southern District of Florida. So he is going to be moving to admit Todd Blanche from into the Southern District of Florida bar to allow Todd Blanche to be the lead lawyer. That's what's going to happen later this afternoon. Chris Kise, because nobody else wanted it, got the short straw, and because he already took $5 million of Donald Trump's Save America PAC money, he's been a valiant, brave guy, and he's going to stand next to Todd Blanche and move to admit him, and then serve as local counsel on all things Miami, as this or wherever this case ends up in the Southern District of Florida. This is Michael Popok, LegalAF. Cold turkey may be great on sandwiches, but there's a better way to break your bad habits. We're not talking about some weird mind voodoo from your wacky neighbor or some sketchy message board. We're talking about our sponsor, Fume. And they look at the problem in a different way. Not everything in a bad habit is wrong. So instead of a drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? Fume is an innovative, award-nominated device that does just that. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural, delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which helps with de-stressing and managing anxiety while breaking your habit. The first time I used Fume, I was shocked at how flavorful and fresh it tasted. It's easy to hold and perfectly balanced. Quite honestly, extremely fun to fidget with. The real wood material and sleek design definitely classes it up, and I feel pretty darn cool holding it. Stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com and use code LegalAF to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com. Use code LegalAF to save 10% off the Journey Pack today. Interesting side note, Todd Blanche left his major law firm as well to represent Donald Trump. So no major law firm really. There's a couple out there. There's a few out there we've talked about on prior hot takes that continue to represent MAGA and Republicans. But Trump's a different story. And no sane, well-established American lawyer, top 100, top 50 law firm or better is going to want to represent Donald Trump. And lawyers that want to represent them have to leave their law firm. Interestingly, Cleta Mitchell, who is also a potential criminal target in Georgia, was also a partner of Chris Kise's of Foley and Lardner. And she had to leave Foley and Lardner. And Chris Kise had to leave Foley and Lardner. And then Todd Blanche had to leave his law firm to set up his own firm in order to represent their one client, Donald Trump. Some people might ask, Popok, you're a practicing lawyer. Why would you do that? Why would you leave a lucrative partnership at an established law firm and go open up your own shop with basically one client, Donald Trump. Look, there's a lot of money in representing MAGA Republican leadership. There just is. I mean, I wouldn't do it. Obviously, but there's a lot of money if you want to represent, Carrie Lake and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of the Jan 6 defendants and Jan 6, Congress people, MAGA Congress people who need representation. You can make a living. There are lawyers that make a living, millions of dollars a year. And they get paid by, political action committees controlled by Trump or by the Republican parties or by the state Republican parties. So look, if you can put your morals and ethics aside, or you think the Republican MAGA side lines up with what you like to do, and you're an attorney that's trying to take on new business, you could swim in that pond. You could make money doing that. And there are lawyers that do. I know many of them. I mean, and that's the devil's bargain that they've made in terms of their careers, and that's why lawyers even consider it. But I love this group of Miami lawyers who never were going to take this case, but wanted the media to know that they were considered to raise their own profiles. Perfect, right? Like, I was considered for the Trump case, but I rejected it. And here's my press release. So that's a very Miami thing, by the way. I definitely appreciate the fact that I mean, we were talking to our LegalAF podcast co-anchors about all this. And my first comment was, wow, how is this so public? The people that he's parading into Doral Country Club golf course and interviewing. I mean, yeah, the media is sitting outside, but these are not like rock stars that everybody knows what they look like. But no, they're leaking it out because they think it's good for their career to be having been considered and rejected Donald Trump. And so that's where we're at. So that's what's going to happen at, around 3:00 when Donald Trump is done being processed. There's going to be a gap where he's really arrested and in confinement under the watchful eye of the U.S. Marshals and his Secret Service detail. And then that group is going to parade him into the room, like some fallen dictator that he is. And he's going to be in the dock of the court, in the well of the court with his two lawyers, Todd Blanche and Chris Kise. We're going to follow it. There's not going to be cameras there. And even worse, the courtroom is public, and there's going to be an overthrow. Sorry, I was thinking about Trump again. There's going to be an overflow courtroom. But by order of the magistrate judge that's handling this, Magistrate Judge Goodman, there's not going to be any electronic equipment that the reporters are going to be able to use from cell phone to laptop or iPad. So they're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. They're going to have to write it up, and when the hearing is over, go rush outside to cameras and call things in for us to get a report. There is going to be an expedited transcript. So if the hearing ends, let's say around 4:00, 4:15, within an hour, we should see a transcript. It's not hard for a court reporter, and they're also audio taping it. But I think we're only going to see a written transcript that the court reporter is going to take down with their equipment and then generate a very quick transcript. I mean, it's an hour-long hearing or so. Doesn't take the court reporter that long to transcribe and get that into proper notes, proper transcript format to then put it on the docket. So we expect to see it on the docket for the case, the electronic docket. Media networks like ours at the MeidasTouch Network will be able to pull it off. We'll talk about it later today as it happens. If you like what this hot take's all about, I do these about every day at the intersection of law and politics as a practicing attorney and trial lawyer for over 32 years, including 20 years in Miami, practicing in courts just like the one at the Wilkie Ferguson Courthouse we're going to be seeing today. You can also, we curate the best of the best stories at the intersection of law and politics, these politically charged litigation matters, on a podcast you can only get on the MeidasTouch Network called Legal AF with my two co-anchors, Ben Meiselas, Karen Friedman-Agnifilo. I mean, you're going to get it all here. I'm a national trial lawyer and longtime practicing Miami lawyer, so I can give you the inside scoop related to that. Karen was a long time the number 2 prosecutor in the Manhattan DA's office, where the other Trump prosecution is going on. And Ben Meisalas is the co-founder of MeidasTouch and the MeidasTouch Network, and a civil rights lawyer extraordinaire and sports lawyer. So you're going to get it all from us in real time, plain speaking, just like this. Give me a thumbs up if you like this content. It helps with the quality and the content and the quantity of what we're doing here. And you can follow me on all things social media at MS Popok. This is Michael Popok, LegalAF reporting.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.